Howdy, and welcome to Broken Tool Garage. Working on this 96 F150. Got a couple of drivability problems that I'm diagnosing right now. Actually got a little bit of time into that already. What this project is a recondition project on this truck to get it back up and running good. I'm trying to document my time and expenses into it so that you will know, if you have something similar to this, about how much it's going to take with your resources to try to get it back up and running. Alright, one of the things that I am working on figuring out is a fast idle, which is usually the idle air right there. You can see that. That's where that's at. It's acting a little funny. The idle, when you give it the gas, it revs up and then it's real slow to come back down, and it idles really fast right there. And I've already gone over vacuum lines on this. If you watch some of the other videos, like doing the fuel pressure regulator and all that stuff right in there. So that's one of the issues there. What I've come up with is, once I get it started, is I can unplug it right here and the idle drops. The other thing I found is the idle screw right here, it was backed almost all the way off. So I have it brought forward enough so that it can idle without the idle air motor going whenever it's warm. And that's where I like to set them, is set the idle with that so it doesn't have to have the idle air motor right there to run. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and pull that off, see if I can clean it out, put a new gasket on there, see if that gets me anything, and just go from there. Okay, one of the problems that I'm having, other than the fast idle, is once it does warm up after a couple minutes, it just really starts to run rough and everything, and I noticed that it's running rich. I can see the black smoke coming out. So that can be a couple things, and one of the reasons it does something like that, or a vehicle will do that once it gets warm, is it's moving from what they call open loop, which means it does not use the O2 sensors. Those have to be warm to function correctly. After they warm up, it'll start using that circuit and close that loop. That's what's called closed loop. So I think it's probably the O2 sensors. One of the three, I have two upstream and then one downstream. It's probably one of the upstreams that's going bad on there. But one of the ways to check that if you have an OBD2 system is plug your OBD2 scanner in there and look at your voltages and make sure it's not completely pegged out one way or the other. So that's what I'm going to do on that, to see what needs to be changed on there. They are old, so it's not going to hurt to go ahead and change them, but that's more of a just throw parts at it type methodology instead of actually figuring out what's wrong. Alright, I found something. Now, I was going to do plugs and wires anyway, but I decided to go ahead and just pull these out now just to see if I can get a diagnostic to see if there's certain cylinders firing and certain cylinders not firing, and every one of them look like that, fouled out. A lot of the plug wires were not tight on the spark plug, and they weren't tight on the cap. You can see that there wasn't a good seal there. And part of this is when these go on, they're a little, you may think that's on there and it comes right off. You may think that's on, it's one-handed, and it comes off. It's still not clipped in. You can see they can be, there it is. So that one's finally clipped in. So it takes a little bit of technique there to get those on the caps. Most of the plug wires look good other than number 5 had... How about we try number 5? There it is. Right there. So you can see that was just straight firing straight to the block and everywhere else. What made them misfire? Now that is a good question. Those spark plug wires being a little loose and all that would not make them all foul out. By the way, I jacked the truck up to get to the passenger side back too. I was going to pull the inner fender liner, but it actually is what all this stuff here hangs on, so I wasn't able to do that. But there was a little bit of a rotted spot right there, and I was able to take that out. I just kind of trimmed it because that's where the rot is. I trimmed that and I was able to get up in there just fine. Ooh, hey, that's missing some pieces. I'll have to remember to do that. I probably won't, but that's why our video records some of this, right? I'm also starting to take the upper intake manifold off as well. I think there's some deeper issues because something caused the spark plugs to foul. Could it be a dirty injector? Could it be O2s? I mean, it could be a lot of things. I do know we had some issues with this idle air, so that's one reason I was going to take the throttle body off, take the EGR off, get new gaskets on. I'm right there. I'm going to go ahead and pull the intake, and I'm going to pull the fuel rails and flush them out. Okay, found a broke vacuum line right here. It's hard to see. We're up in the engine. Here's the hose. I can't reach and I'm being stabbed. So there's the hose that goes to there, and that was a hard line. You can see it's been patched. At one point I didn't catch it. So yet another reason to pull the intake manifold off and chase that down and get that stuff replaced. I don't know what this is. If it was something I was keeping, I would get rid of that. Don't know what it is, probably don't need it, but I need to check this out and see what all this little area here, what this does, and make sure it's in proper working order and not causing an issue. Looks like that one might be broke as well. I see a little patched line on there, but I'm going to go ahead and get that off, and the coil will come off with that. I'll have to climb up in the truck to do that. And we're getting close. So the EGR, there's a little mountain brace on the transmission dipstick tube. And then I think I have almost everything off. The PCV tube is right here, and it's hard clamped on. So I'll probably have to pull that out as an assembly. May get it on the bench and rework that idea. That's not good. You do not need silicone. You do not need silicone on the plenum gaskets. And this is full of it. You just need a new gasket. They torque down. Yeah, this is just full of silicone. I think I know who did this too, because it was off to get valve cover gaskets. Yep. Yep, I bet that was definitely, and this hole right here didn't have a bolt in it, because you got to go through, let's look at it, you got to go through there to get to it, so you almost need this piece out if you look straight down through there, so you barely have enough room to get your ratchet straight down in there. I don't know if you can get a 3/8 down in there, or you got to go 1/4 inch drive. Oh yeah, so that's off. I think I'm going to put some rags over there and call that for today. Let's see what our time is to get to this segment. we are, well, about 45 minutes to get this piece off from where we was at. Okay, a little bit of follow-up. I did some PB Blaster where the fuel rails mount. You know, those wonderful fuel lines, those quick connect, not quick disconnect. Soak those down because I want to get the rails off and get those flushed out and check the injectors and do some work on those, right? A couple other things. I found the intake bolt. It's half there. Half of it's in the intake and half of it is who knows where, right? So that's why that one wasn't in there. Let's see, what else do we got? I'm looking at a lot of these vacuum lines. Let's take a peek. Ooh, let me knock you around.